The story of me and a girl I met in my homeroom class. First-person perspective. I sat 2 seats across from her in homeroom. A small space separated us, and I had never talked to her before. I glanced over at the group I usually hung out with, but as always, they were leaving me out. I turned my head toward her instead. She was so peaceful, lost in a book. What was the book? I couldn't tell. Without thinking, I called out, "Hey, you," and she turned to look at me. "How are you?" I asked. A small smile appeared on her face, and it surprised me. I had never seen her smile before. I asked her to move closer, wanting to talk more. I started firing off random questions, one after another. I learned her name, her birthday, her favorite color, even the color of her eyes. Wait, what was the color again? That night in January, I wrote in my notebook, "I saw this girl in my homeroom." The next morning, when she walked through the door, I greeted her for the first time. She pulled out that book again. What was the book? But this time, my group decided to include me, so I didn't get a chance to talk to her. Months passed without much interaction. Then we had a seating change, and she ended up sitting right behind me. I turned around, handed her some food, and chatted with my group. The next morning, I turned around and greeted her again. She brought out that book once more. One morning in March, I finally saw the title, Visitors. She let me read a bit of it, and we ended up talking about our favorite shows and music. Weeks flew by, and we talked more and more. One day, she pulled out her sketchbook, and we made a page together. It was full of cats and TV Girl, the artist. I scribbled my number in her book, and later that day, she texted me with a picture of a doll. I couldn't help but giggle. We texted all afternoon. Days passed, and she promised to come to the play I was in. Opening night came, and there she was, sitting in the back row. I won't forget the way she looked at me, and I won't forget the way I felt. During intermission, I walked out to find her waiting for me. She handed me a purple flower with a note. "You did awesome." Her name was signed at the bottom. I smiled wider than I had in a long time that night. She hugged me for the first time, and those were the best 5 seconds of my life. That Thursday, we went to the Apple Blossom Fair together. We played games, got food, and shopped. I had so much fun. The following Monday, I finally gathered the courage to ask her who her crush was. I guessed and guessed. And then she told me. It was me. We got together that day. The next morning, I greeted her again, but this time I sat next to her. I remember changing all my statuses to "I'm dating my crush." The weeks that followed were perfect. The SOL exams went smoothly because she was there, cheering me on. She loved me. But then came Tuesday, May 21st. It's a day I'll never forget. The day passed, and I found myself in 7th period, the class she always came to before going home. She hugged me like always, asked me how I was doing. I said I was good, because I was with her. Then, after a few moments of silence, she said, "I don't think this is working out." My eyes widened as tears gathered. I nodded and walked away, trying to hold it together. I went to my friend Jess, tugging on her shirt, desperate for comfort, but she wouldn't turn around. I begged, and finally, she did. When she asked what happened, I broke down right there in class. The tears wouldn't stop. I ran to the bathroom to clean myself up, trying to keep it together. But when I got on the bus and finally reached my room, I let it all out. I screamed into my pillow, crying until my eyes were bloodshot. "Why?" was the only word I could manage. I screamed until my lungs hurt, cried until I had nothing left. What we had, it was gone. The next morning, I put everything she had given me into a folder and handed it back to her. I skipped the first hour of class, not able to face her. The day after, I found out the truth. She left me because she had a crush on my ex. Today marks 4 months since we broke up, and I can't remember her face. I can't remember her eye color. I can't even remember that smile. I've moved on now, but I wonder, how can I ever love someone like that again? I checked out that book, Visitors, one last time, just for the memories. I can only remember her name,